So, what if I told you that the feeling of just never having enough time in the day has absolutely nothing to do with your schedule?
Right, which is wild to think about.
It really is. Like if you're someone who loves to learn, you're absorbing information, juggling a million things, you probably deal with that feeling of modern overwhelm.
And constantly, we all do.
Yeah, and we tend to treat that mounting panic, that feeling of being stuck or falling behind, as it's like a time management issue. But today, we're actually looking at the biology of panic.
Which is such a radical reframing of how we view our daily struggles. I mean, instead of looking externally at our calendars or our messy inboxes, we're tracing that overwhelm straight back to internal physiology and cellular memory.
Exactly. And that is the mission for this deep dive. We're taking a single, just incredibly fascinating source on what's called the 50-second gene key and decoding its core premise.
Well, just for a little context, if you aren't familiar with it, the gene key system is this framework that maps human consciousness. It basically blends genetics, psychology, and the ancient wisdom of the I Ching.
Right. And this specific key, the 50-second, outlines this really intense transformational journey. It starts in our baseline state of stress, right? Then it moves through this evolutionary phase called restraint, and ultimately it arrives at a profound physical and mental stillness. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because when you hear phrases like the journey to stillness, I mean, it can sound a little esoteric, right?
It definitely can sound very mystical, yeah. But we're going to explore the very real biofeedback loops and the structural anatomy that ground these concepts in actual reality.
Which is what I love about this.
Right. We aren't just talking about abstract philosophy here. We are looking at the literal physical mechanisms of how stress and stillness actually play out inside your nervous system.
Yeah, so to figure out how to reach that stillness, we kind of have to start by diagnosing the baseline state that most of the world is just stuck in right now.
The default setting for humanity, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And in this framework, stress is defined as a shadow frequency. And I was just blown away by how simply this text diagnoses the root cause. It literally boils all human stress down to a manifestation of one simple thing.
Shallow breathing.
Shallow breathing. It's so basic, but so true.
It is profound in its simplicity, really. I mean, think about a young child or a baby sleeping. You see their little bellies rising and falling deeply.
Oh, yeah.
Children naturally know how to breathe from the diaphragm, but as human beings grow up, we are just conditioned right out of it.
Because we're sitting at desks all day.
Exactly. Our posture changes, our environmental stressors increase, and subtly, over time, our breath moves up from our belly and gets trapped in our chest. It becomes incredibly shallow.
And that shallow breathing isn't just like a bad habit, it has an immediate physiological consequence.
Yeah.
It basically fails to oxygenate your cells sufficiently.
Which pulls your entire biological rhythm completely out of kilter with nature.
Right, and it creates this vicious biofeedback loop. Because when you aren't getting enough oxygen, your body literally assumes you are in imminent physical danger.
Precisely. The body is essentially throwing a neurological error code.
Wow, an error code.
Yeah, because when your cells lack oxygen, the autonomic nervous system triggers the sympathetic response, which is your fight or flight mode. It activates those really ancient primal survival pathways right in the amygdala.
But the problem is, because of our advanced brain development as a species, we don't just, run from a predator anymore.
No, we just sit at our laptops.
Right. So when those survival pathways light up in the modern world, our thoughts suddenly become predominant. We go into overdrive trying to think our way out of a perceived physical threat.
And we end up living entirely from our heads, effectively severed from the body, which creates this bizarre self-perpetuating cycle. The source actually claims we become addicted to stress and the specific cocktail of hormones it releases.
Okay, wait a minute. I have to push back on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the text says we're addicted to it, but we all know stress is deeply uncomfortable. Like, no one actively enjoys lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about a deadline.
Well, addiction isn't always about pleasure, right? It's fundamentally about familiarity and chemical dependency.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when you live in a constant state of shallow breathing, the adrenaline and cortical rushes become your biological baseline. Your body gets so used to operating in a state of high alert that the absence of those chemicals actually feels wrong.
So peace feels like a threat.
Basically, yes. The nervous system starts to interpret relaxation as vulnerability, which is absolutely terrifying to the primal brain.
That makes me think of a car alarm.
Car alarm?
Yeah, living in the modern world is kind of like sitting in your apartment with a car alarm just blaring outside your window all day, every day.
Hmm.
At first, it's maddening, right?
Oh, totally.
But eventually, you just accept the noise as normal. You turn up the TV, you go about your day, and your conscious mind kind of forgets the alarm is even going off. But your nervous system is still absorbing that blaring noise in the background.
That is a perfect analogy. And neurologically, that alarm is the amygdala staying hyperactive. Your conscious brain tunes out the sounds so you can function, but your adrenal glands are still pumping cortisol into your bloodstream as if the threat is standing right in front of you.
No wonder everyone is so tired.
Exactly. You are exhausted because your battery is constantly draining in the background. And interestingly, the ancient Chinese mapped this exact frequency out beautifully.
In the I Ching, right?
Yes. In the I Ching, the hexagram for this specific energy is called keeping still, and it's symbolized by the mountain. The core message of the mountain is that there is no hurry.
Which is the exact opposite of how stress makes us feel. I mean, stress totally alters our perception of time. It fuels that FOMO, that fear of missing out, that panic that you just haven't got enough hours in the day. Under the influence of those stress hormones, time always feels like it's either running way too fast or just agonizingly slow.
And when time feels like it's moving too slowly, that is when stress manifests in a passive, depressive way. That is the feeling of being stuck.
But the source says you're never actually stuck.
Right. You just aren't accepting where your natural rhythm is. You are fighting the tempo of your own life.
So if our baseline is this chemically dependent stress state, this ignored car alarm, the obvious question becomes how we physically break that loop.
Right.
Building on this realization that stress is basically a physical alarm bell, we have to look at how we physically answer it. If stress is a physiological disconnect from nature, the cure has to be a physiological reconnection.
And this is where the anatomy of breath becomes incredibly specific.
Yeah, let's get into the anatomy.
It brings everything right back to the physical structure of your body. The anatomical root associated with this 50-second gene key is the perineum.
Which is at the very base of the pelvic floor.
Exactly. And this point has a direct structural connection to the fontanelle, which is the crown, or the soft spot at the very top of the head.
They basically bookend the spine. And the claim here is that when you feel stuck, when you feel that mounting panic in your chest, it's simply because your breath isn't reaching down to this base. Tuning your awareness into that space at the base of your body is what brings the breath back down.
It physically pulls you out of your head.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for you practically? Well, think of your nervous system like a circuit board.
Okay, I like this.
You have the power source at the top, the fontanelle, and the grounding wire at the base, the perineum. If you are taking shallow little breaths into your chest, the power is never reaching the base of the circuit. The whole system shorts out into anxiety.
What's fascinating here is how we can ground your circuit board analogy in pure anatomy. We are really talking about the vagus nerve here.
Oh, right, the vagus nerve.
Yeah, it's the superhighway of your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest network. It runs from your brainstem all the way down through your diaphragm to your gut and pelvic floor.
So it connects the whole circuit.
Precisely. When you take a deep, diaphragmatic breath that expands the base of your body, you physically stimulate that vagus nerve. It instantly sends a chemical signal back up to your brain that says, "We're safe, you can turn off the alarm."
Which completes the circuit. And honestly, what's even wilder is how this expands beyond just your individual biology. Because this shadow of stress is described in the text as a collective phenomenon.
Generated by the world aura of humanity.
Right. In other words, when you are stressed, you are tapping into a globally shared frequency of panic. You are out of kilter with the whole, with the earth itself, which the text refers to as Gaia.
And this raises a super important question about how we interact with our environment. Because to rise above this collective field of background panic, you must do one thing: slow down your biorhythm.
And notice the precise language there. It says, do not slow down your vibration, slow down your rhythm.
Because high vibration is good.
Right, but a frantic rhythm is what kills you.
Exactly. And Gaia, the Earth, actually has a measurable biological rhythm, like a literal tempo. In physics, this is known as the Schumann resonance.
Okay, break that down for us.
So it's an electromagnetic frequency of about 7.83 hertz, and it pulsates between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere. When you go down to the ocean or you walk deep into an old-growth forest, you physically feel this tempo.
It's that grounding feeling you get in nature.
Yes. It is a deep, silent, grounding drum beat that our biology literally evolved within.
And this is where the biology gets wild for me. The text notes that the DNA in your cells literally expands when it hears and feels this natural Earth tempo. But when you forget that tempo, when you get caught up in the shallow breathing and the synthetic pacing of modern life, your DNA literally contracts.
Right. And when we talk about DNA expanding or contracting, we are looking at the science of epigenetics.
Right.
Environmental frequencies and stress hormones literally change how your genes are expressed. When your body is bathed in cortisol from shallow breathing, your cellular membranes tighten. The cell goes into a protective lockdown.
Halting all the repair and growth.
Exactly. It's sending your body into a survival state precisely because you are disconnected from the source rhythm, which leads us to the great secret of getting out of the shadow state.
Trust the alarm. If stress is the car alarm going off, the secret isn't to put on noise-canceling headphones or just try to, power through it. The secret is to trust the discomfort. Stop what you're doing, slow down, breathe all the way down into your base, engage that vagus nerve, and intentionally tune yourself back into that 7.8 3 hertz heartbeat of the earth.
Because if you successfully slow down your biorhythm and tune into that natural tempo, a completely new capability emerges.
And this is the shift.
Yes, this brings us logically from the action of slowing down to the evolutionary result of that action, which the gene keys call the 50-second gift. The gift of restraint.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because normally, the word restraint sounds like a total buzzkill.
Right, it doesn't sound very fun.
No. It sounds like you're holding back your passion, biting your tongue, just putting the brakes on your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But this framework flips the definition entirely. It frames restraint not as suppression, but as an absolute superpower.
It strips away all those negative moralistic connotations of, holding yourself back. In this context, restraint is the ultimate mastery of focus. It is the capacity to take the long-term view.
So it's vision, really.
Yes. People who unlock this gift have the profound ability to literally slow down time, not just for themselves, but they bring others out of stress just by the pure gravity of their presence.
I love the metaphor the source uses for this. It says people with this gift are like great anchors.
Oh, the anchor metaphor is beautiful.
Yeah, if you think about an anchor on a ship, it isn't punishing the ship by holding it in place. An anchor allows the organism to rest, to pause, to ride out the storm, and to regain its clarity and its timing.
And what it's really doing is aligning a person with cosmic timing. I mean, everything in the universe, from the tides to economics to human creativity, it all has its seasons, its ebbs, its swells, its flow.
Right. You can't just be at high tide all the time.
Exactly. Restraint is the deep biological wisdom to know you don't have to force the river. And it profoundly impacts the emotional body, exuding this incredible calmness throughout a person's aura.
These are the people who remain completely unflustered by human conflict or workplace drama or even massive external crises. They are just fundamentally grounded.
But not detached.
Right, exactly. It's not because they're apathetic. The text specifically notes that restraint does not put the brakes on enthusiasm. It's actually filled with optimism and idealism. But it relies on a natural patience, just waiting for a deeper flow to reveal itself before taking action.
It is a state of deep ecological attunement. The central question driving this gift of restraint is, how can I be of the greatest service to the universe?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is. But someone operating from this place looks at their environment, whether it's a forest ecosystem or a corporate boardroom, and inherently knows how that system most naturally survives and thrives. They don't impose their ego onto the environment, they synchronize with it.
So it's less about suppressing your energy and way more about deploying it perfectly in tune with nature.
Perfectly said.
And once that restraint anchors your biology, the nervous system stops fighting completely. And that leads to a physiological tipping point, the ultimate destination of this whole journey. The transformational path ends in what is called the 50-second siddhi, which is the ultimate state of stillness.
And just for clarity, a siddhi is a Sanskrit term. It roughly translates to a divine power or the ultimate perfected expression of a specific trait.
Yeah.
And the Siddhi of Stillness is introduced in the text with a really beautiful quote from the Ashtavakra Gita, which is a classical text of Indian non-dual philosophy.
Oh, I love this quote.
The quote is, "Even when he is still, the selfish man is busy. Even when he is busy, the selfless man is still."
Man, that is quite the paradox to wrap your head around. The idea that ultimate stillness is actually found in movement.
It is the ultimate paradox. But, if we look at it biologically, it makes perfect sense. At a cellular level, our bodies are constantly in motion. We are literally being rebuilt over and over again every hour we are alive.
Blood is pumping, neurons fire.
Exactly. Breath is exchanging, movement is constant and unavoidable, yet the true stillness exists within or underneath that movement.
So this stillness isn't some dead, icy, lifeless void. It's bursting with potency and life. And the text points out that it actually involves a tangible physical shift in the brain.
Yes, the chemistry completely changes.
It triggers the release of specific hormones and neurotransmitters that actively silence the default mode network, which is the part of your brain responsible for all that anxious, ego-driven overthinking.
We are talking about a flood of GABA, which is the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, alongside endorphins. This chemical cascade basically suppresses the endless mental chatter.
And what is so compelling to me is that this true stillness can manifest in wildly different physical ways. We see two incredible contrasting examples of this in the text.
Oh, the two examples are fascinating.
Yeah. On one hand, you have the spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle, who famously sat on a park bench, gazing into space for weeks on end, completely physically still, yet totally awake.
And on the other hand, you have the absolute fury and passion of a whirling dervish disappearing entirely into an incredibly fast spinning dance.
Extreme physical pausing and extreme physical movement, both arriving at the exact same chemical release in the brain. They both hit that ultimate state of internal stillness.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, both Eckhart Tolle on his bench and the dervish in his spin have tapped into the selfless nature of this stillness. Going back to that quote we mentioned, the selfish man is busy because his ego is constantly trying to control the outcome.
Oh.
The selfless person has merged completely into the background frequency. They have stepped out of their own way, allowing life and movement to simply flow through them without any resistance.
I absolutely love the metaphor the text uses to describe what it feels like internally when you reach this state. It says your inward processes begin to occur in slow motion.
It's very poetic.
It really is. A feeling or a thought rises up, but instead of triggering a panic response, it becomes like a precious penny dropped into a still pond. You just watch and marvel as it spreads its ripples through your chemistry, runs its natural course, and then dissolves backward into the stillness.
It is a stunning visual. And neurologically, it perfectly describes the space between stimulus and response. The thought happens, but the amygdala doesn't react.
Exactly, especially when you contrast it with where we started. We started with thoughts operating as a blaring car alarm of panic and stress, caused entirely by shallow breathing.
That constant noise.
Yeah, but now, because you've anchored your breath to your base and engaged that vagus nerve, a thought is just a single penny slipping quietly into a deep pond. The drama is gone.
There is no more drama. You observe life from a distance, but not with detachment. You just realize there is no part of you that wants to play the frantic game anymore.
The game just stops being appealing.
Exactly. The stillness is just too captivating. It is the end of all seeking. The text describes it as the wellspring of joy, the place where everything meets at the end of the rainbow.
And crucially, this stillness isn't isolated. True stillness naturally reaches out to touch the stillness in others, in all things. It acts like a tuning fork for the environment around it.
Which brings this entire transformational journey completely full circle.
Let's do a quick recap of the causality here, just to pull it all together. We start with shallow breathing, which cuts off our oxygen, triggers the sympathetic nervous system, throws us out of sync with nature, and traps us in a stressed, fast-forward reality of overthinking.
That's the shadow state.
Right. Then, by intentionally anchoring our breath to the base of our body, to the perineum, and aligning with the Earth's literal heartbeat, we unlock the superpower of restraint.
We become the anchor. We optimize our focus and align with cosmic timing.
And that anchor eventually drops our neurobiology into a profound stillness that silences the default mode network, ends the drama, and allows thoughts to just be ripples in a pond.
And remember, this is not just abstract philosophy. The mechanism is a biofeedback loop that you can hack, starting right now, today, simply by paying attention to the physical depth of your breath.
It is entirely practical. But I do want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. We discussed earlier that the shadow of stress is a collective phenomenon, a world aura generated by the mass panic of humanity.
Yes.
But we also just noted that true stillness naturally reaches out to touch the stillness in others.
The implications of that are enormous when you consider the interconnectedness of our environments.
Right. So what if your personal choice today to just sit, slow down your rhythm, and take a deep breath all the way to the base of your spine isn't just a self-care exercise.
What if it's more?
Yeah, what if on a quantum and cellular level, your individual stillness is actually the most potent active intervention you could possibly make to heal the collective panic of the world around you?
By becoming the anchor yourself, you literally calm the waters for every other ship in the harbor.
I love that. So whatever you are rushing toward today, maybe let the car alarm fade out for a minute, drop a penny in the pond, and enjoy the stillness.